KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
Many gun shop owners hoped this day wouldn't come, but Washington's new law banning assault-style weapons is now in effect, and staff at Sharpshooting in Spokane were quick to make sure they were immediately in compliance.
It's 9 a.m., an hour before Washington's ban on assault weapons goes into effect.
Yeah, that's for anything.
And staff at Sharpshooting are busy clearing their shelves.
All of that has to go upstairs.
The ban goes into effect immediately upon signing it into law, which means Washington gun dealers can no longer display any banned inventory.
Let's see, grips are good.
That's why Sharpshooting staff spent this morning before opening their doors, moving banned inventory into storage.
These are all going to head upstairs to be sold online out of state.
So this is one of the guns that we had to take down, so I got to put it away, and then we got to add it to our forgotten shelf here.
With about 100 firearms and associated gun parts in stock, it's not a quick process, which is why staff started boxing these guns late last night.
We don't have to like this law, we just have to follow it.
Jeremy Ball is the second-generation owner of this family business. He says his parents built the gun shop on defense arms, which is why Ball is worried about how he'll keep the family business going under the new ban.
Our hope is that we can carve out a new niche for ourselves. It's not going to be easy because it's almost like starting over again.
So that should be it.
Staff took one last check on the sales floor for any parts or guns that needed to be pulled. By the time doors opened this morning, several cases and shelf displays were empty.
You can see just even like right inside of this shelf here and the next couple of them as you work here, the bottom shelves are completely empty.
For now, their inventory of banned firearms will sit here, out of sight, waiting to be sold out of state.
Now, the new law allows gun shops like Sharpshooting 90 days to sell the banned firearms they already have in stock, but they can only be sold or transferred to customers out of state. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News. Before Governor Inslee's ink even dried, federal lawsuits that challenge Washington's new firearm ban have already started to trickle in. So far, we're tracking 2 federal lawsuits, one of which lists a Spokane gun shop and a former rifle Olympian as the plaintiffs.
The National Rifle Association filed a lawsuit in Eastern District Court on behalf of the National Shooting Sports Foundation and individual plaintiffs, including Sharpshooting and former rifle Olympian Amanda Banta from Spokane. The lawsuit lists the Washington Attorney General and Chief of Washington State Patrol. It calls Washington's ban on certain semi-automatic rifles and pistols unquestionably unconstitutional. The lawsuit states few states have ever tried to adopt such an extreme measure, and for good reason, as no less an authority than the Supreme Court has already recognized that semi-automatic rifles traditionally have been widely accepted as lawful.
Governor Inslee's signature on this law does not mean it's constitutional.
Mark Oliva is a spokesperson for NSSF. He further explained the organization's intent behind filing this lawsuit.
I think the people of Washington should understand that their Second Amendment rights belong to them, that they're not privileges that are granted and taken away at the whims of politicians in Olympia.
During the signing of House Bill 1240, Attorney General Bob Ferguson said he was confident the ban would survive legal challenges.
We have defended a number of bills related to common sense gun reform, and our record so far is pretty good against the NRA and against the Second Amendment Foundation. We are undefeated, and we plan to keep that record intact.
The Second Amendment Foundation filed a separate lawsuit, also arguing the ban is unconstitutional. It says to ban a firearm, it must be both dangerous and unusual. Adding firearms that are in common use, such as Washington's banned firearms, are neither unusual nor dangerous.
Movement on these lawsuits won't happen overnight. In fact, it could take years to reach a ruling. But in the meantime, we'll continue tracking their progress. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
56% of the fatalities that happen for women who are experiencing intimate partner violence, it's coming at the hand of a gun.
In just the first 6 months of 2022, 39 people died as a result of intimate partner violence in Washington state.
Women are 5 times more likely to be murdered by an abuser if a gun is present. So guns raise the lethality of domestic violence significantly.
Now that Governor Inslee signed the assault weapons ban, many groups like the Domestic Violence Response Team at the YWCA in Spokane are hopeful this will lead to less domestic violence incidents.
Guns in the hands of an abuser in a domestic violence situation is a very high risk situation, and it's not just a family problem. That risk is for everybody.
The team includes law enforcement, like Detective Josh Liva with the Spokane Police Department. He's one of many people charged with ensuring that anyone found guilty of domestic violence no longer has access to a gun.
Usually one of the things that's going to happen at that first appearance is they will put what's called a domestic violence no contact order in place. Part of that order usually includes a surrender of firearms.
If a person in Washington state has a domestic violence protective order issued against them, by law they must surrender all of their guns to the police for them to hold until that protective order expires.
I think one of the reasons the importance of these firearm surrender laws is because those 2 weeks after a domestic violence survivor attempts to leave their abuser is the highest risk weeks of their life, which is why we found that the removing of firearms at the time of a protection order or at the time of a criminal charge of domestic violence happens, we are trying to reduce that lethality risk of a victim.
In 2021, 531 guns were surrendered. In 2022, that number increased to 813. This year alone, nearly 200 guns have already been surrendered. While advocates are happy about the progress they're making in the legislature, there is still more work to do.
Our sources are the Washington Attorney General's office and the new law itself. To answer these questions, the Attorney General's office refers to Section 2, subsection 21 of the law that defines import. It says, import means to move, transport, or receive an item from a place outside the territorial limits of the state of Washington to a place inside the territorial limits of the state of Washington. This means none of Washington's banned firearms can be brought into the state, and therefore Washington residents cannot buy any banned firearms out of state and transport them back into Washington. As for out-of-state residents, this section of the law means they cannot bring a banned firearm into Washington. But the law also says import does not mean situations where an individual possesses a large capacity magazine or assault weapon when departing from and returning to Washington state, so long as the individual is returning to Washington in possession of the same large capacity magazine or assault weapon the individual transported out of state. So in other words, Washington residents are free to transport an assault-style weapon they already possess out of state and back again, just as long as it's the same firearm they left with. So we can verify, out-of-state residents cannot bring banned semi-automatic firearms into Washington state, and Washington residents cannot buy any banned firearms from out of state and bring them into Washington.
Well, this year's point-in-time count took place between January 24th through the 29th and counts both the sheltered and unsheltered homeless population throughout Spokane County, including Cheney, Liberty Lake, and within Spokane city limits. January was a busy time for the volunteers in this year's point-in-time homeless count.
It's a pulse check on what's happening in their community. For providers, they can look at specific subpopulations of those they serve to see if there's an increase or a decrease.
Now, 3 months later, the results are out. The highlights were presented to the Spokane City Council during their study session Thursday morning. According to Data System Administrator Daniel Ramos, Spokane County saw a 36% increase in just a year in the overall homeless population, growing from over 1,700 in 2022 to almost 2,400 in 2023. The sheltered count also grew from about 930 to just over 1,400.
That's a 53% increase. This is where we saw the largest increases, and this tracks pretty closely with the increase in beds.
But not every number went up.
One thing that was a bright spot this year was our chronic homeless number was down, and those are individuals who have been homeless for a year or more and have some form of disability. So it was great to see that number go down.
According to the count, the top 3 reasons for homelessness they heard from those who were unsheltered were lack of affordable housing, lack of family or support network, and substance use. One thing that was new in this survey was if eviction was a primary reason for homelessness, which 7% said it was. Ramos also said there's still more to be done with the point-in-time numbers, including working with universities to try to figure out the reasons behind the increase. He says they plan to release their story map update this summer.
And there was also another increase in the point-in-time count this year, which had actually nothing to do with the county's homeless population. 170 volunteers helped with this year's survey compared to 100 last year. In the studio, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
A much different tone at tonight's meeting. Board members, for the most part, remained civil, and that's exactly what students and staff had been hoping for, because tonight's meeting, like all others, was being watched by the organization that will decide if NIC holds on to its accreditation in just a few months.
It's pretty terrifying to think about.
Of all the things to stress about in college, your school's accreditation status should not be on the list.
People's moods have definitely been down. I mean, of course, this has been an ongoing issue ever since, problems started happening the 3rd day I was on campus for the most part when the mask mandate got implemented and the president got fired.
Today, officials with the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities were on campus interviewing students and staff for their report, which could determine NIC's accreditation status. They also watched tonight's board meeting where trustees approved new legal counsel. Attorney Art Maycomber will oversee the transition this June. Tonight's meeting started by honoring 13 faculty members receiving tenure. Board members also heard inspirational stories from students nearing graduation.
I'm the first person in my family who will get a bachelor's degree.
It shows what NIC means to all of you.
The board, which has been dysfunctional at times, has been working with the Association of Community College Trustees, learning better communication skills, how to get along, and treat each other with respect.
Each committed to working towards a positive accreditation outcome.
Students, staff, and alumni just hope those lessons stick.
We came to work in tears after your behavior on Monday night.
I've seen a lot of progress compared to where we were 6 months ago, but it's baby steps, and I kind of feel like we need to take a huge leap now.
A decision on the college's accreditation could come as early as this July. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
There's a guy walking up with 2 canisters. He literally douses my car in whatever the liquid is, seems like gas, and sets it on fire.
It's hard to believe someone would set another person's car on fire for no reason. But that's what J.R. Harrison says happened to him.
I can't fathom myself wanting to set fire to anything for any political reason, whatever. I don't get it.
He says he traveled from the west side to visit his friend at the Serrano Apartments in North Spokane. He had no idea that by the end of his visit, he'd be needing a ride home. This all happened while Harrison says he was sleeping. But when he reviewed the footage captured by these cameras on his Tesla, that's when he learned the full story.
I've only had that car for about a year and some change, but it's my dream car. I saved up for that car just to watch it back and see the car go up in flames and see what actually happened. It's just like, oh man, that sucks.
Harrison says while he can't get his car back, he hopes the suspect will be found and brought to justice.
If there's a guy walking around just setting stuff on fire, come on, man, he needs to be taken off the street sooner than later, especially because I have friends in that area, and hopefully he's not capable of more than just larceny, but who we don't know.
Harrison says there's no plan to buy a new car. He says he's waiting to hear back from his insurance company to confirm they'll cover the damage.
I'm grateful, my friend, I'm safe. But if we can get that guy off the streets, I think that'd make me sleep a little better at night.
Spokane police say officers are investigating the situation as an act of arson. They ask anyone with any information on the suspect to call Crime Check. In Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Spokane Mayor Nadine Woodward is making it clear she will not direct staff to launch an independent investigation against Police Chief Craig Meidel. She says City Council's resolution calling her office to do this is redundant and political.
Complaints against Spokane Police Chief Craig Meidel prompted the Office of Police Ombudsman to initiate an investigation in October. Its report in December found that he exchanged hundreds of emails with downtown business owners that included special access to the chief and information. Meidel insists he did nothing wrong.
We have done this for many organizations.
Last month, 21 community groups called for Chief Meidel's resignation.
Chief of Police is using city resources to advance the agenda of a narrow group of powerful business owners.
The City Council began drafting a resolution asking the mayor's office to launch an independent investigation into the chief to determine the full scope and nature of his conduct. But this afternoon, Mayor Nadine Woodward says this is redundant and political.
I am deeply concerned about the council's insistence on keeping alive a topic that has already gone through an independent investigation by the Office of the Police Ombudsman, and that was closed many, many months ago.
The resolution cites city code that requires the administration to direct human resources to investigate complaints against the chief of police.
Isn't it the due diligence of your office and human resources to follow city code that you're meant to uphold?
Well, we do that when they come from the community. But when it is political and it comes from the city council, I'm not obligated to do anything.
Council President Brian Begg says the complaints have come from the community.
The mayor wants to ignore the city code. A little ironic because she's the law and order mayor.
He explained to me the ombudsman can't investigate complaints against the chief. They can only create a report of observations, which it already did.
We just want it to be cleared up once and for all. HR is supposed to do it. If HR can't do it, an independent investigation would be preferable.
Councilmember Lori Kinnear added the investigation wouldn't only focus on Chief Meidel. It would include looking into council staff and staff from the mayor's office to see if they've been involved in this alleged behavior as well. Now, this resolution has not yet been scheduled for a vote yet, but we'll keep you posted on when it does. Reporting from the Spokane City Hall, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
The Knitting Factory is usually a place to catch a show or concert, but today's main event, teaching students from 25 high schools across eastern Washington and North Idaho about the dangers of fake fentanyl.
We're not here to scare you. We be here to empower you.
Using interactive trivia.
You guys are closest. 50.6 million tablets have already.
And group chats. Thursday's Youth Fentanyl Summit broke down the hard numbers in an easy to understand way.
I didn't know if fake fentanyl was a thing until we came here today, but it's helped us learn a lot more about it,
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't even know what fentanyl was.
It's a first for Spokane's Alliance for Fentanyl Education, or SAFE, targeting teens, an age group more likely to use and die from fentanyl.
Yeah, just a tiny amount can kill.
Yeah, it takes a little this amount.
And while some came in with little knowledge about the street drug, others like Isabel Billou already knew how easy it can be to get.
People on Snapchat that just will randomly text you and be like, oh, you want to buy this? Like, it's this much. And they'll give you like a menu, pretty much.
And it's not just the stats. Students also heard personal stories.
People aren't offering it to you like they say they are. It's the people that are closest to you that are offering it to you. That's what happened to me. I was in a relationship with somebody, and one day he came back to the house and just said, hey, you should try this.
A day out of class. It could be a life-saving lesson worth sharing.
Definitely will. I will probably share it with my mom because I was actually just texting her in the middle of it. I was like, I'm learning so much that I didn't know.
Shannon Mowdy.
And it's a good thing. Everybody should learn this.
KREM 2 News.
Wildfires don't discriminate, whether you live in an urban or rural area. So fire officials want people across our county to know how to best protect their properties from potential wildfires. Spokane fire officials say Spokane County may hear more of this. Last month, the Washington Department of Natural Resources awarded 3 Spokane agencies with wildfire defense grant funds. Now and over the next 2 to 3 years, Wildland Resource Planner Nick Jeffries says that money will be used to thin out at least 1,000 acres of urban forest.
By thinning out the trees, not only do we give them good forest health, but we reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire. Again, we're not alleviating the ability for fire to burn, we're reducing that risk.
Even though wildfires can't be stopped, officials say there are ways to reduce the potential impact on property. This includes creating defensible spaces, cleaning pine needles out of gutters, and keeping lawns watered. The Spokane County Fire District 3 chief says people living in Spokane County are at a higher risk when compared to the rest of the state.
The greater Spokane community has been identified as the fourth most at-risk community in the state of Washington. And particularly concerns around southwest Spokane County, where we're at today, and North Spokane County, the Deer Park area, given the fuels in the area, the terrain, the weather patterns.
Jeffries says everyone should ask how well their property can withstand a wildfire. This isn't just a rural concern.
If you have a wood shake roof, a cedar shake roof, and needles in your gutters, you are just as much at risk in that urban forest as somebody in a wildland forest.
For more information on how you can get a free risk assessment on your home or property through Wildfire Ready Neighbors, visit our website, KREM.com. In Spokane County, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
The Greater Idaho Movement proposes 15 counties leaving the state of Oregon and joining Idaho. It's an idea that has generated a lot of talk, but is it realistic? Several viewers reached out to ask, is there an actual way that Oregon counties could become part of Idaho? Let's verify. Our sources are the U.S. Constitution and constitutional law professor Richard Seaman from the University of Idaho. Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution addresses the creation of new states and the steps needed to make it happen. The Constitution states, new states may be admitted by Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as of the Congress.
The Oregon legislature, the Idaho legislature, and U.S. Congress would have to sign off on this before it would happen.
That's right. Essentially, what would happen is the Oregon and Idaho would have to enter into what's called an interstate compact, which would require both legislatures to approve it. Then it would be presented to Congress, and the U.S. Congress would have to approve it as well.
In both houses of Congress, the House and the Senate.
Both houses of Congress, and then it would go to the president.
When was the last time that state lines were redrawn in our country?
I think you'd probably have to go back to the creation of West Virginia to find something analogous. You might know that the folks in West Virginia did not want to secede from the Union like the folks in Virginia did, and that was what precipitated that split up.
So we can verify, yes, there is a way that Oregon counties could become part of Idaho, but
how likely is it that the Greater Idaho Movement actually happens?
I think it faces a really steep uphill battle. You just ultimately have to get a ton of folks to agree for it to happen, and that's always going to be difficult because Greater Idaho would mean lesser Oregon. You might think of it that way, or many Oregonians, I suspect, would see it that way.
If you have something you'd like me to verify, send me an email at verify@krem.com.
$58.88, please.
A new team member
Come on, Gracie, get up.
is gracing the 9 Mile Seed and Supply store. A puppy helping run the store.
She's here 3 days a week.
And apparently the city, too.
This is the mayor of 9 Mile.
Gracie has a pretty good reputation in town.
Everybody knows this dog now. People come in this store just to see this dog. She's just been a godsend.
If you believe in God's grace, you'd know Gracie being here
You want to walk yourself?
was meant to be.
Sit down. Gracie was actually found the Monday before Christmas in a mailbox.
Pulled up to one house, opened the mailbox,
That's mailman J.J. Johnson.
and I saw something move in the back of the mailbox. I wasn't quite sure. Then I put a piece of mail in, and then a face turned around, and it was a puppy.
You heard that right. A puppy. Small enough to fit in the mailbox at just 4 pounds.
I stopped what I was doing and drove the rest of Foremound looking at all the mailboxes to see how many I could find.
He found 8.
I was very surprised. And then I was sad because you could see him shaking in there, and I was hoping they weren't there that long.
All 8 made their way back to the post office, right next door to 9 Mile Seed and Supplies.
Instantly, As soon as I saw her, I said, if nobody else takes that dog, I want that dog.
And so one pup had a home. Next step, she needed a name.
We decided on Gracie because by the grace of God, she was found. She didn't freeze. It was 15 degrees that day.
Gracie wasn't the only pup graced with luck that day. All 8 survived the mailboxes and have found forever homes.
I'm happy they got adopted. I just hope it doesn't make it a routine.
Despite the grace that day, mailboxes are not the safe way to rehome animals. In 9 Mile, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
When this competition came forth to my email, I was blown away with excitement and knew that our department would be one of the best represented in the state of Idaho. My name is Jared Helm, and I am the theater teacher here at Coeur d'Alene High School, where I've been for the last 15 years of my career.
It's been fantastic. You know, we're the first show in Idaho to do it, and I think we've got an incredible cast backing up that awesome honor, and it's been a great time. Hi, I'm Nathan Ringer, and I play Christoph.
Shh, we're supposed to be listening.
It's been a blast, especially like after my song. Like just seeing everyone's faces light up is like the coolest thing ever because Hello, I'm Marette Washington, and I play Olaf.
I can't lose you.
It's crazy to have this like a franchise and this movie that just exploded when I was younger, and I remember being such a big fan of it when it came out. I think I was like 8 or 9, and so then to grow up and end up playing one of the characters that I love so much as a little girl, it's just like incredible. My name is Paige Wilson, and I play Anna in Coeur d'Alene High School's production of Frozen.
I have seen several children show up in costumes for the show. However, my favorite one was my cousin that showed up in an Anna dress. As proud as she was of me, she could not wait to see Anna. Hi, my name is Madison Cummings, and I play Elsa here at Frozen, the Broadway musical at Coeur d'Alene High School.
I love being backstage and seeing the element that the audience doesn't get to see, but without the backstage, the show would not be possible. My name is Isabella Blackstone, and I am the costume designer and stage manager of Frozen.
Everybody has come together to really demonstrate our objective of the play and to embrace all of our differences together to create one singular, beautiful production.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.